Hi guys, today we're going to be solving equations with variables on both sides. This is something that we did last year. So I'm going to give you a second, pause the video, and write down the first example and the steps. Alright, so example number 1. Notice how there's variables on both sides. Now our goal is to just get one variable. Then we can continue to solve the equation. So first thing we're going to do, now you can choose if you want to use the 4K or the 7K. I want to use the 4K because I know that if I subtract 4K on both sides, that I will still have a positive number, 3K. If I subtracted 7K, it would be 4 minus 7, which is negative 3. Which you can still work with, but I think it's just a little bit easier to work with positive numbers. Also notice here that this negative 10 comes down. It's not just 10. Okay, so now we only have one variable left, and we can solve the equation. So this is a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides. Again, notice how I chose the 2 because that number is on the same side as the variable. Then we have 3K equals negative 12. Divide both sides by 3. K equals negative 4. Box my answer. Again, number 2, there are variables on both sides. We want to combine them. So I see a 3x and a 5x. I'm going to choose to subtract 3x because then I will be left with a positive x. But you could do it either way. Over here I'm just left with 4 equals 5 minus 3 is 2, 2x minus 10. Then I'm going to choose the 10 because that's on the same side as the variable, and I'm going to add 10 on both sides. 14 equals 2x. Divide by 2 on both sides. We get x equals 7. Okay, and really quickly here, I want to show you the difference between this type of problem, when there's variables on both sides, and an equation where the variables are on the same side. So maybe I'll do something like this. 3x plus 4 plus 5x equals 10, negative 10. Okay, so in our first example, we had a 3x on one side and a 5x on the other. When we go from one side to the other, that's when we do the inverse operation. That's why we subtracted 3x. This is positive 3x, we subtract 3x. In this example right here, they're on the same side. That's when we draw the boxes, right, like terms, and we just combine them. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8x plus 4 equals negative 10. You guys see the difference here? That's important because I saw some of us on the quiz, we had an equation like this, and instead of combining 3 plus 5, you were subtracting 3, but you can't do that when they're on the same side. Okay, so that was just, I just wanted to point that out. Okay, number 3, I see right here the distributive property. I'm going to do that before I start combining variables. Whenever you see the number outside the parentheses, you should distribute. So here I have 8y plus 4 equals 2y minus 26. And I'm going to choose to subtract 2y because I know 8 minus 2 is 6, and that's positive. So these are going to cancel out. Here I'm going to have 6y plus 4 equals negative 26. Okay, then I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. I get 6y equals negative 30. Divide both sides by 6. Y equals negative 5. Okay, so number 4 has a combination of variables on both sides and variables on the same side. So every time you see an equation, you should look at it, look at one side of the equation, and say, is there anything I can combine over here before I start solving? On the left side, we can distribute. That's fine if you want to do that right away. 5x plus 20. And then when I look over here, I see x and I see 2x. So I'm going to combine those. So 1x plus 2x, 3x plus 6. Alright, now I still have variables on both sides. So I have to perform the inverse operation to move it over. 2x plus 20 equals positive 6. Subtract 20 on both sides. 2x equals negative 14. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. X equals negative 7. And box my answer. Okay, number 5 is just like number 4. Because first of all, I see distributive on the left side. I see that here. On the right side, I see variables on the same side, 2a and a, just like I saw x and 2x. So I want you to try this one on your own. So pause the video. Alright, so I'm going to go over it real quick. 28 minus 7a equals, okay, so right there that's, 2a plus a, that's 3a minus 12. Then if I add 7a here, I'll still have positive a, so I'm going to add 7a. 28 equals 10a minus 12. I'm going to add 12 on both sides. I'm going to get over here 40 equals 10a divide by 10 divide by 10, a equals 4. I'm going to box my answer. Okay. Alright, part 2, special cases. We did these last year as well. So take a second to write down the first example and the hint. Alright, so in this example, again, there's variables on both sides. Notice, and you'll notice that it's going to be a special case when the variables are the same. The coefficient, the number before the variable. We have 7x and 7x. If I subtract 7x, because remember this is positive 7, the opposite is negative 7. So if I subtract 7x, they're both going to cancel out. 7 minus 7 is 0. And I'm just going to be left with 3 equals 23. Since that is not a true statement, 3 does not equal 23, we write no solution. That means no matter what number I plug in for x, it will never work. There is no solution that will work for this equation. And you have to write this. This is part of the answer. I will take points off if you don't write that. Okay, number 2. I see the distributive property, so 3 times 4, so 12x minus 6 equals negative 6 plus 12x. I notice right away that this is a special case because there's 12x on both sides. So if I subtract 12x, they both cancel out. But this time I'm left with negative 6 equals negative 6. That's a true statement. This is when I would write all real numbers. And what that means is any number that I plug into this equation, it will work. For example, if I plugged in 1, negative 6, 3/4, 0.785, any number, any real number that I plugged in will be a solution of this equation. And again, you have to write all real numbers or I'll take points off because that's important. That's part of the answer. Okay, number 3, distribute 2y plus 4 equals 2y plus 4. I can already see that they're equal to each other. If I subtract 2y from both sides, I'm going to be left with 4 equals 4. So I'm going to write all real numbers. Okay, try this one on your own. I will give you a second, so pause the video, and then I'll go over it. Okay, so I'm going to choose to add 4b so that I have a positive variable. Over here I'm left with 3 equals 14b plus 10. Then I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides. 3 minus 10, negative 7 equals 14b. Divide both sides by 14. And I get b equals, well, negative 7 divided by 14. If I plug that into my calculator, I'm going to get negative 1/2 or negative 0.5. Okay, but make sure that you're simplifying your fractions. So either one, I will accept. Whatever your calculator gives you, that's what you should write. We're not trying to make you do extra work and, convert from decimal to fraction. All right, now that this is done, I want you to take the foldable and fold it like an envelope and glue it into your notebook.